Thursday, 9 in the morning, is already behind us. We have time to tell you about the most important news. The television news service is now at your full and undivided attention. While you are currently watching this important broadcast, please do not forget to like and also leave a thoughtful comment. At night, the Russians attacked Ukraine from the air. Powerful explosions were heard in Odesa. Around 2 o'clock at night, the Russians launched about 15 Shaheds at the city. They entered simultaneously from the sea and tried to hit energy facilities. Thanks to the skillful work of the air defense, most of the drones were destroyed in the sky. However, some drones managed to break through, and as a direct result of the explosions on the ground, one of the large warehouse buildings and a nearby parked truck caught fire. Fortunately, there were no casualties. Rescuers, together with National Guard members and volunteer brigades, quickly extinguished the fire. There are dead and wounded as a result of enemy shelling in the Nikopol district of Dnipropetrovsk region. A man was killed in his own yard, and another person was injured by a drone strike. In the Pokrovska community, a 49-year-old woman was wounded. Fires broke out there due to drone attacks, and 11 private houses were damaged. Last night, the residential Dnipro district of Kherson was heavily shelled by enemy artillery. Tragically, 2 men suffered severe mine blast injuries, and devastating fires broke out in the Nadnipriansky Starosta district due to relentless Russian drone attacks. The number of people killed in Kostyantynivka, Donetsk region has risen to 9. 7 more people were wounded. The Russians shelled the city with artillery. They bombarded the residential neighborhood for over an hour. The enemy attack caught residents in their homes, on the street, and in a store. There were also strikes on 2 civilian cars by enemy drones. A woman was killed and another person was injured. In the city, 2 apartment buildings, a shop, and a shopping center were damaged. In Kalush, Ivano-Frankivsk region, schools and kindergartens will resume classes today. The day before, they were closed because, after an enemy shelling, a large-scale fire was extinguished in the city for several hours in a row. The Russians' target was an infrastructure facility. The enemy attacked it with missiles and Shaheds. The streets were shrouded in smoke, and elevated levels of formaldehyde were detected in the air. Residents of Kalush were advised to stay indoors and keep their windows closed. Currently, air quality analyses have stabilized and pose no threat to life or health, according to Ivan Chaban, head of the branch of the Regional Center for Disease Prevention and Control. The Russians are relentlessly attacking the Donetsk region. The police have released dramatic footage of the rescue of bus passengers in Kostyantynivka. The day before, the bus was hit by an enemy FPV drone. The impact caused the bus to crash into a tree. The driver and 2 women were injured. They were evacuated by police paramedics while enemy drones circled overhead. One of the women was seriously wounded. She was losing consciousness, and the injured driver was trapped inside the bus. All the locals' efforts to free him were in vain. The paramedics managed to free the man using improvised tools and, after providing first aid, transported the people to the hospital.
How is it going now? Has she come to yet? Up, Father! Come on, please! Come on, Father! Up! Quickly! Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Ukraine will not give away its territories to Russia. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated this in Denmark at a joint briefing with Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. He noted that no one can guarantee that Putin will not attack again, as he has lied many times. Zelensky also reported that he will soon have a conversation with US President Donald Trump. Today, the president of Ukraine is heading to Paris, where Emmanuel Macron is waiting for him. The French president has invited fellow leaders of the so-called coalition of the willing to provide security guarantees for our country at the summit. What will be negotiated and whether there is already a plan will be reported by Radio Svoboda correspondent Zoriana Stepanenko.
Allies are preparing to once again discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. The most reliable of these is considered to be the Ukrainian army, and they are actively helping to supply it with what it needs. As part of the new initiative, weapons worth $2 billion have been purchased from the United States, Secretary General Lutt reported, adding that even more should be expected in the future. Europe is also preparing to play a key role in ensuring Ukraine's protection from a possible new attack by Russia. The President of the United States agrees that his country will contribute to security guarantees for Ukraine, but it is still unclear in what form and to what extent. Allies, Lutte said, are actively trying to clarify this important matter today at the level of defense ministers and then tomorrow at the crucial summit of coalition leaders in Paris. It is also possible that Donald Trump will indeed join the discussion among the Europeans.
Currently, the Europeans, together with other countries, are completing their important work at the level of chiefs of staff, defense ministers, and leaders. An important meeting will definitely take place tomorrow, so I fully expect that tomorrow or in the very near future there will be absolute clarity about precisely what we can effectively do together. We can certainly interact even more actively and collaboratively with the American side to thoroughly understand what they genuinely want to offer in terms of their substantial participation in comprehensive security guarantees and exactly what that will ultimately look like.
The Secretary General, who will also be present at tomorrow's summit, considers the discussion about security guarantees for Ukraine to be especially relevant in light of a possible future meeting between Zelensky and Putin. The President of the United States is insisting on this meeting as part of his peacekeeping efforts. And while the Ukrainian president has long agreed, in Moscow they say there is no agenda for such a meeting. Russia is simply not interested in peace. This is the opinion of a number of top European officials. Heiko Maas recently said Putin met with Trump in Alaska only to avoid sanctions. And now, for example, the German Chancellor believes that the head of the Kremlin will only be ready for negotiations when it is beneficial for him. At the moment, according to Merz, Putin is interested in continuing the war and seizing Ukrainian territories. And the head of the German government considers economic pressure on Russia to be decisive. Tomorrow, Merz will join the coalition of interested parties online and will make the possible meeting between the presidents of Ukraine and Russia one of the topics for discussion.
Alexander von der Leyen, Geneva will be an appropriate place for concluding a relevant ceasefire agreement. I will once again propose that the so-called coalition of the willing initiate this agreement there. But the most important security guarantee we can provide at the moment is sufficient support for the Ukrainian army in its efforts to defend this country.
Zoriana Stepanenko, will Donald Trump increase economic pressure on Russia? For now, this remains an open question. His finance minister said that the introduction of sanctions could be considered as early as this week. From Brussels, Zoriana Stepanenko, Marek Hajduk, Radio Svoboda, especially for TSN 1+1.
Announcer, this is indeed cynicism of the highest order. During his visit to Beijing, Putin named his preferred location for a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He says it's Moscow, the Russian capital. The current Kremlin dictator stated that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, specifically asked him to hold a potential meeting with Zelensky and claims he will indeed negotiate if the Ukrainian leader comes to Russia. At an improvised press conference for propagandists, Putin also said that the Ukrainian authorities should hold a referendum to resolve any territorial issues. And if there is no possibility to peacefully resolve the Ukrainian issue, Russia will supposedly have to do it by military means, the dictator said. Let me remind you, earlier the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, repeatedly expressed his strong willingness to meet with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, but not within the territory of Russia. They started dreaming about living to 150 years old. During a military parade in China, a microphone accidentally picked up an unofficial conversation between Xi Jinping and the dictators Putin and Kim Jong-un. The three politicians were ascending the Tiananmen Gate in Beijing to watch the ceremony marking the 80th anniversary of Japan's defeat in World War II. Bloomberg reports that the live broadcast of this particular segment lasted for less than a full minute, and the audio transmission was occasionally interrupted. However, during the significant discussion, the microphone clearly caught Xi Jinping telling his esteemed colleagues, and I quote him directly, "In the past, people very rarely lived to be 70 years old, but today, even at 70, you are still considered a child." Narrator. Putin responded to him through a translator, saying that with the development of biotechnology, human organs can be constantly transplanted. People can remain young and eventually even achieve immortality. And to conclude, the leader of China added, "There are predictions that in this century there will be a chance to live up to 150 years. It is noteworthy that both Putin and Xi are already over 70, while Kim Jong-un is only 41. Footage of the appearance of the three authoritarian leaders has spread throughout the Western press with headlines about the formation of a new axis. The European Union's chief diplomat, Kaja Kallas, stated that they represent an autocratic alliance seeking a fast track to a new world order. Announcer, you are watching TSN. To stay up to date with the most important news, subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications. And right now I continue with the latest news. The murder of former Ukrainian parliament speaker Andriy Parubiy is an act of political terror by Russia. The Verkhovna Rada has appealed to the parliaments and governments of other countries, as well as international organizations, urging them to condemn the murder of the Ukrainian politician as a crime within the context of Russia's war against Ukraine. In addition, the MPs are calling on law enforcement agencies to conduct a transparent and comprehensive investigation into this crime. The parliamentarians are also calling on international partners to strengthen sanctions against Russia and provide Ukraine with additional military and security support. Volodymyr Zelensky. This address contains a crucial and urgent appeal to our international partners, to the esteemed parliaments of various democratic countries around the world, urging them to significantly increase the comprehensive pressure on the aggressor state on the Russian Federation, which relentlessly continues to commit heinous terrorist acts and egregious crimes against the resilient and true Ukrainians who bravely continue their unwavering struggle for freedom and sovereignty. Announcer, it is important to note that cryptocurrency will be legalized in Ukraine. Parliament has supported in the first reading the creation of a market and the taxation of profits from operations with virtual assets. The adoption of the bill is intended to create transparent conditions for digital currency transactions and introduces oversight, reporting, and taxation of virtual assets, the authors of the initiative explain. The crypto market will be similar to the securities market. 23% from the sale of cryptocurrency will go to the state budget. This is an additional 14 to 15 billion hryvnias annually for the country's treasury, predicts the head of the Finance Committee, Danilo Hetmantsev.
Danilo Hetmantsev, this will allow us to legalize and bring out of the shadows a huge crypto asset market that already exists, and we simply cannot ignore it. Crypto is currently legalized in the major European Union, the United States, Japan, the United Kingdom, and various other partner countries.
Narrator. At the capital city gymnasium in Pechursk, the principal did not let children into the building during an air raid alert because they were wearing shorts. The head of the educational institution personally stood at the gates and began filtering the students. The school principal declared that the children who came to school wearing shorts were in violation of the established school dress code and subsequently sent them home to change their attire, even though some of these students lived quite far away and their parents had already dropped them off at the school and then departed. The teacher behaved in such an aggressively manner that she genuinely frightened the youngest students present. Some of them even burst into tears. To make matters worse, an air raid alert started, and because of her ban, the children were unable to go to the shelter and had to wait by the fence. At the same time, the school principal herself was dressed completely informally. The video of the incident was published by outraged parents of the students. The District Department of Education and Innovative Development called the principal's behavior unacceptable, apologized to the students and their parents, and announced an official investigation at the gymnasium. Education Ombudsman Nadia Leszczyk stated that the absolute safety of children is an absolute priority, and leaving them outside during an air raid alert is a blatant violation of the law of the land. The Ombudsman also called for an end to criticizing children's clothing and urged everyone to focus on more important issues.
Sandman, you're not letting kids in if they're wearing shorts. What, are you trying to turn this place into the Soviet Union? I don't quite get it. It's 30 degrees outside. Sandman, what kind of school? Where's that written? Woman, it's written everywhere. No, I don't allow it. Sandman. What do you mean don't allow it? Woman, that's how it is. Change their clothes.
Announcer. That was the last update for now. Don't miss our upcoming TSN broadcast to stay informed about current events.